Hello and welcome to today's webinar. Today we are joined by Carrie and Matthew from HDS. So really pleased to have some guests here today. And we're going to be talking about some insights from our State of BPO report. So we independently surveyed 100 BPO leaders across the UK to understand frustrations, challenges, and the opportunities that lie ahead for the BPO sector. So today, as mentioned, we're discussing this with one of the world's leading business process outsourcers, HDS. HGS delivers digitally enabled customer experience and business process solutions that combine people, automation, AI, and analytics to drive better outcomes for clients worldwide. If you don't know who MaxContact are and you're here joining us today for the first time, MaxContact is an AI customer engagement platform built to help organizations have better, more meaningful conversations that drive business outcomes. We work across various sectors and use cases, working with sales teams, collections, customer engagement teams to make it easier to connect with customers, manage contacts at scale, and gain powerful insights into every conversation utilizing AI. So a few intros coming up shortly, but just a bit of housekeeping to move on. Today's session is being recorded. Feel free to submit any questions at any time. If we don't get to the questions at the end, we'll follow up via email. Either Carrie, Matthew, or myself will take those. And we'll be sending out the recording after the session as well, so you can watch back at your leisure. So I'll move on to today's intros. Thank you very much, Carrie and Matthew, for joining us today. I'll introduce the team here. So Carrie Ramskill is COO of HDS UK and South Africa. Carrie oversees operations, support services, and business development across the UK and South Africa, with over 25 years experience in the contact center industry, including 13 years in the BPO sector. Carrie is a recognized leader in operational transformation and customer experience delivery. Her career began at Asda, where she helped launch the retailers.com outsourcing strategy, making Asda one of the first UK brands to enter the South African market. And at HDS, Carrie has been at the helm of major delivery programs, from scaling the UK's COVID-19 vaccination helpline to 2,000 employees in 4 weeks, to transitioning entire operations to a remote model in 5 days. Today, her focus is on embedding technology that enables agility, improves efficiency, and drives better outcomes for both customers and employees. So Carrie brings a heap load of experience, deep insight, and from both the client and BPO side, and making her a trusted voice on what operational excellence really looks like in today's changing CX environment. So we're really pleased to hear more from Carrie shortly. Now we have Matthew Hanley. So Matthew is the Director of Service Development and Solutions at HDS, where he leads the design and delivery of innovative tech-enabled service solutions for clients across the customer experience space. A business and digital transformation leader, Matthew brings a proven track record of reimagining services, operations, and experiences, particularly in fast-changing and complex environments. He excels at connecting strategy to execution and aligning people and technology to overcome challenges and unlock growth along the way. At HDS, Matthew plays a key role in shaping new offerings to combine automation, AI, analytics, and human expertise to deliver measurable outcomes. Matthew brings that real-world insight into how BPOs can transform operations and experiences at scale. So we're really looking forward to digging deeper in today's BPO report and the findings that we've found across the sector, and hearing from Carrie and Matthew and the experts at HDS around their take on the latest challenges and opportunities in the space. I'm Kaylee Tate, I'm Marketing Director at MaxContact. I've been instrumental in driving the significant growth of the organisation and enhancing our brand. I've got over 15 years experience in both B2B, B2C sectors across various industries, from telecoms, commodity markets, and today the customer engagement technology sector. So there's our intros. We'll move swiftly on to the BPO highlights from the survey across the 100 leaders that we'd spoken to. And then we'll go to Carrie and Matthew and hear from their experiences. So let's move on and start with probably the one we're not going to get away from, but AI. AI, it's without a doubt the biggest priority on the agenda for most BPOs right now, according to our survey. Just 5% of BPOs are currently using AI in their operations, but that's changing rapidly. 72% of respondents said it's now a top priority for 2025. So while usage on this with this stat seems low, the intent is sky high, and it tells us really that we've hit that tipping point. The most popular use cases cited were across client insight and analytics, chosen by 36% of leaders, and that was closely followed by automation, reducing workflow overheads and improving quality assurance. It's clear that the BPO sectors, companies in the sector aren't looking at AI as a gimmick. They're looking at ways to deliver operational value and improve outcomes with the use of AI. The real challenge is moving from intention to execution, and that's where partnerships, tooling, expertise, data readiness make or break success. Moving on to outbound and outbound communication. So outbound isn't just surviving, it's growing. 65% of BPOs told us that they're scaling their outbound team operations this year. Only 13% are scaling down. That's a huge shift considering noise around digital self-service and inbound first strategies. The data's telling us something important. Outbound is being reimagined and not being retired. We're seeing a move away from legacy scripts and legacy dialers and a move to smarter multi-channel campaigns that blends AI personalization with the human touch. So outbound remains a high priority and high ROI channel when executed well for many BPOs, and it's becoming a strategic lever again, particularly in use cases across sales, collections, and proactive customer service in the customer engagement space. Despite ongoing economic uncertainty, the BPO industry is showing real optimism at the moment. 95% of respondents said that they plan to expand geographically in the next 12 to 24 months. And this isn't all about cost or nearshoring. It's a sign of market confidence. BPOs are positioning themselves to meet growing customer demand from clients who want flexible, expert-led customer experience without the overhead of in-house teams. What's also interesting is where BPOs are heading in terms of that geographic expansion. 50% plan to grow in the UK, 38% to Europe, 26% into North America, and 21% into Asia Pacific. This shows intent to scale both locally and internationally and to support clients with increasingly global customer bases. Next up, we'll talk about pricing because this came up as a real friction point in the survey. 34% of BPOs say that their current pricing model is difficult to scale or adjust. That's not surprising when you dig deeper. Almost half of providers still offer traditional monthly subscription models. Only 29% of clients actually want them. Instead, customers are looking for flexibility, performance-based models. They want pricing that reflects the value that's delivered and not just hours that are worked. And yet only 19% of providers offer performance-based pricing today. So we've got a clear mismatch in what clients say that they want versus what some BPOs are offering. Fixing this isn't easy, but it's also a big opportunity. Providers that modernize their commercial models could gain a significant edge, especially in economic scrutiny, puts more pressure on measurable outcomes. And then finally, let's just move on to security, the last point that we want to bring up today before we move on to questions. This was one of our most surprising findings. We often can think of security and compliance as a regulatory requirement, a tick box, but our research shows it's actually becoming a sales differentiator. In fact, 47% of clients said that data security and compliance risks are a top concern about outsourcing. And 54% of BPOs are now positioning their security and capabilities front and center in client conversation. So this is a shift from ticking boxes to building trust, transparency, and certification. Real-time reporting are increasingly being used as a way to win business and not just retain it. So if you're not already treating security as part of your value proposition, it's time to perhaps rethink that. And it's not just about protection, it's about persuasion and building that trust with your customers or potential customers. So there's a lot to take in there, a lot of stats that we've talked through, but we're going to kick off by starting with the conversation around AI, and I'm really excited to hear from yourself, Carrie. So we've heard about AI adoption and it's reaching that tipping point for BPOs. Can you tell us a little bit more around how HDS is scaling AI as a business?
Yeah, thanks, Kaylee. Of course. I think for me, it's about having a true understanding of the client need and outcome. And it's really important that it's not tech for tech's sake. It's having the ability to de-risk the implementation. And we have the experience in core areas that already deliver exceptional results, and it's building on top of that. So from an AI perspective, running POCs, learning, adapting, and the speed of execution is really key. We started our journey internally. From our business perspective, we have lots of internal processes where we could test this technology, we could learn, we could adapt, we could scale it. So we made our business more efficient first. We deployed onboarding bots, using bots to integrate quality, workforce management, training, together for seamless interaction, which reduced our cost, it reduced absence, it reduced attrition, but more importantly, it increased employee sentiment. And as an organisation, we've used those learnings to apply to customer-facing tools, essentially. For example, putting Knowledge Assist, using AI into a service that reduced average handling time by 25 seconds, using AI to rationalise casework, to free up meaningful interaction with local authorities. And of course, it brings cost saving with it. And another example is using it for social media, for filtering, tagging, analytics, to reply and engage with customers. And in that example, we brought 1.2 million customer insights on that platform that could only be ever reached using technology. So for me, AI is about creating connected interactions, built on our people model, but making those people more efficient and the interactions that's left more meaningful. We've built our own product in Agent X, but we also partner with people like MaxContact to offer the right tools to generate the outcomes that's desired by the end customer. And I think that's essential. Every person's outcome or intent is different, and being able to match that with their needs is really important for us as a business. And for me, it's really important that you need to be explicit about the outcome you want to achieve as an organisation. And then we use AI to deliver that seamlessly and quickly. And for me, it's about having the ability to amplify human potential. And that's where AI sets itself apart, is how we can empower our people and our agents to deliver resolution and connections, but providing that human touch will always be essential in that journey.
Thanks, Carrie. Yeah, I love that line around amplifying human potential. And it's really interesting how you've taken your learnings around the execution of AI internally and taken that to clients as well. Matt, it would be great to understand some real life client use cases and understand at a little bit deeper level how they're using AI today. I know Carrie touched on a few points there. It'd be great to build on those.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. So I think one of the things that's really important to ask when we consider any use case in the use of the technology is simply asking the question why and how will customers receive effectively their interaction, their journey. being supported by AI. So when we are considering these use cases, we're really kind of looking at a number of different areas where we've deployed the technology to deliver some kind of benefit, whether that's a quality benefit or a productivity benefit or a cost benefit. And I would say that there's probably about 4 main areas within the CX space that me and my team have been working on in terms of developing use cases for clients. The first one would be in terms of that initial contact and interaction with customers. So that might be across the different channel interactions of, say, voice or chat. And we're using that technology to not only try and support a customer being able to transact without interacting with a human, but also trying to accelerate how an agent might improve or complete a transaction and a task when interacting with a contact. So for voice, we might be doing things like gathering information in a conversational fashion, which is then made available in a summarized transcript for an agent when a call or interaction is transferred to them. For a chat, again, we may be gathering information to help reduce that handling time by the agent so they can very quickly understand what the intent is of the customer and the reason for them making contact. Around the agent, we're also using AI to help support the agent find information by surfacing knowledge articles and making recommendations around next best actions in terms of how to then move that customer journey forward. And we're also using the technology to understand through analytics much richer insights into the conversations that are taking place. So we see that there's obviously a considerable amount of information and data in things like voice recordings that we can actually unlock that allows us to see much more and learn much more about our customer interactions and what they're thinking or saying around about the service they receive or the products they're experiencing, and reading between the lines really in terms of the data and information that they're imparting around their request or inquiry with an agent. So coming back round again, to use cases, really important to understand why you're using the technology, how it supports the agents, how it supports the customer experience more broadly, and ultimately how it helps the organization deliver on its goals.
Amazing. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, some really powerful use cases. And it's so interesting to hear how with the application of AI, the level of insight that you can get that just wouldn't be possible beforehand across those conversations that are happening in the contact center. Something that we've seen with a number of our clients as well, where you're getting the customer sentiment and the voice of the customer, but learning just things that would be so difficult to find out around product, the market, competition, like you say. Amazing. So just moving on to expansion and geographic strategy, which was a point in the report findings. Carrie, 95% of the BPOs plan to expand into new geographies this year. Can you talk us through your location strategy at HDS and why it's so important for your clients?
Yeah, of course. We have numerous locations across the globe, the UK, the US, Canada, India, Philippines, Jamaica, Colombia. We've added South Africa this year. And for me, it's about having global diversity and capability and providing choice to customers. South Africa, for example, is a leading destination for UK companies to support high levels of customer experience and empathy, whereas somewhere like Hyderabad, for example, delivers exceptional chat performance and concurrency. So it's important to have the ability to offer a landscape that's right for the channels that you're servicing, the vertical that you're working within, and what the cost you're looking to achieve and the experience you're looking to achieve is. And having various locations that you can choose from complements the customer experience. More of our clients that we interact with have multi-geo propositions. I think when I first started in the BPO, you typically have onshore and offshore with one location. Blended locations for different types of activity now is the norm. And as a company that offer those services, we need to keep up with with those demands. But I think most importantly, your offshoring journey and decision making needs to drive the strategy you have, the brand values that you have, and the customer journey you're looking to deploy.
Amazing. I think it leads on really nicely to this next question as well. But the State of the BPO report revealed the most common client concern when outsourcing is service quality and agent expertise, data security, compliance, a lack of control. Carrie, how is HGS helping clients overcome these concerns?
Yeah, I think for me in our industry, account management is often really overlooked. Our team have deep entrenchment with our clients from day one to facilitate an intimate relationship that's built on trust. That's the most important thing for us in relationships, is built on trust and understanding. And from word go, understanding that strategic intent, understanding what the goals look like, understanding what we're expected to achieve, but being able to have an open and transparent conversation about that and the difficulties within that really sets relationships apart. That if you could be honest and transparent about the issues that you're perhaps facing as the supplier, the root cause can be established quicker and fixed quicker. And I think sometimes that, we overlook the relationship aspects between the two companies that interact together. From a HGS perspective, we have global experience, we have financial strength, we have high abilities of compliance elements. But our partner approach to outsourcing is enabling transformation by providing expertise, insight, the people, but also a best-in-class tech stack that's agile to respond to the changing needs of a customer. I think, you contract for 3 years and your tech stack stays the same for 3 years in quite traditional sense. But in today's world, that can't happen. Technologies are changing, they're advancing, customer intent's changing, how people interact with companies are changing. And for me, those changes really need to be considered quickly with agility from a BPO, but also transparently using ROI and the right analytics to inform that decision making with your customer. I think for us as well, what we're trying to deliver as well as a bit of an intermediary between full outsourcing, but also realising the potential of offshoring, is we have a solution, an offshore staffing solution that we call OSS. And basically it's an interim step between having services in-house and offshoring those locations. So for us, it's kind of a risk-free approach that the company or the client manage the service, the team leaders still manage the service, the senior management team still interact with the people. And essentially as HGS, we hire the people and provide the location. So you realise location savings in maybe geographies where you're not present, but can still manage those teams effectively. And we find that that's kind of bridging the gap and alleviating some of that fear around relinquishing control of your brand and your values. And I think as partners, we have to commit to outcomes and continual improvement. But most importantly, as a provider of services, whether that be technology or whether that be people, it's still underpinned, whether it is technology or people, by the people in our business. And we represent companies, we represent brands, and our employee value proposition is built on creating a positive impact. But also we encourage our people to be analytical in nature, to be transparent, to ask questions, because I think as well, when you're representing a brand and you're not sat within that company on a day-to-day basis, you need to be bold with the questions you ask to make sure that you get the right understanding to apply that to the service that we offer.
Great, thanks, Carrie. Some really useful insights. So just flipping back to technology and building on the expertise that your team have got at HDS, there must be lots of lessons learned from digital transformation initiatives. Matt, the latest tech and AI advances mean that contact centres are having to change at a rate probably not seen since the pandemic or the internet. And like Carrie said, consumer behaviors are changing as well, and we're responding quickly to those. What are the lessons that you think you've learned at HDS through digital transformation projects that you're running?
Sure. So I think what's really important about lessons learned is that they are very much learned through partnership, as you rightly say. Technology is moving at a pace. It's disruptive, and in many ways, when we embark on a digital transformation program, we're in discovery mode. And being in discovery mode is about working with the client in terms of how they understand their business. We're experts in how we deliver digital transformation, but obviously every business is unique, and we have to work and collaborate in order to do that. So right at the top, key point is about making sure that we're very clear about what sort of experience we're trying to deliver in the use of the technology and how that aligns with the client's goals. And seize the opportunity to see how far you can go with the technology. And one of the things that we very much have seen the benefit of is to deploy to achieve a high degree of personalization through interactions. So they become less generic, they become more authentic. At the same time, the balance does need to be struck, though, with keeping things relatively simple. Within any digital transformation program, there's a good number of stakeholders that need to be managed. Everything from perhaps colleagues in our people organization that are thinking about how this impacts on roles, our IT organization in terms of strategic roadmaps for technology, financial colleagues in terms of the return on the investment of how the technology delivers, and all these points are really lessons learned sort of as a basket. We can't take anyone in isolation, but certainly in terms of deployment of AI and AI initiatives, the overriding point is around keeping it relatively simple but aligned, but taking the opportunity to rethink actually how might we do this, rather than trying to how might we do this different, how might we do it better for customers, consulting with customers, and not just say we're just trying to bolt it on or replicate what we already do, but taking the opportunity to actually rethink what sort of experience our customers would benefit from, what they desire, as a package, as a total piece of work, rather than in isolation.
Amazing. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, I think that's a common theme across a lot of this content today, keeping it simple, but outcome focused and driven for the customer. Great. So we'll move on to a few questions from the panel. So this one is probably best for you, Carrie, maybe Matt, if you want to elaborate on. But what's holding BPOs back from adopting AI, do you think?
I think, God, the elephant in the room is probably the CFO. Because, our industry is built, being built on the fact that, you have a workload, you translate that workload into revenue, essentially. And what's the fear is around these technologies and how does that impact your revenues and your mix and all of those things. And essentially, if I think the pricing models aren't right, then that is a genuine concern, and that's why a lot of attention needs to be paid to those pricing models. I think as well, it's around the risk, the fear of getting it wrong, both for your customer and the risk profile of your business, or from a compliance point of view, which we spoke about earlier. And for me, what's vital in applying AI is the reporting analytics that come with it, and how you sense and respond to AI, and the impact that it's having. And that depth of reporting analytics gives you the ability to fail fast. You can see what's happening, you can make changes in an agile manner, you can move quickly. But I think without really understanding that reporting and what you're looking for in the outputs that you're looking to drive and the definition of success, that's where it can go wrong. You need to be clear around the outcome you're looking to achieve and the ROI that you're hoping to get to it, and then you build the analytical capability around those factors. I think by putting it in without that level of analytics and reporting, then you're not seeing either the full potential or perhaps some of the elements that isn't going according to plan. So for me, it's probably around, yes, that revenue mix. It's around how the risk to the business, but then also, to Matt's point, how this changes our business fundamentally around, I keep hearing in all sorts of avenues that, AI is going to create a situation where agents are dealing with more complexity on a day-to-day basis. As an employer of thousands of agents, you don't want to be put in that position where you're saying what you do today is going to become harder without really understanding what that means. So if it's going to be harder, what does that mean to my remuneration, for example? But for me, it's not about it being harder. And I think we're using the wrong term from that perspective. I think what the human interaction will provide is where it's going to be more meaningful. It's where that customer really needs human interaction, where they need something solving by a human, or they need to speak to a human because they're going through something in their lives where empathy is vital in that situation. It's not necessarily going to be more complex. It's going to be more meaningful. And I think without understanding where technology will land and where we will be in 5 years' time, it can be quite a scary place for the people that work in the industry and support the industry. So for me, it's about those things. It's about the revenue mix. It's around the risk, but it's also around the fear of what that means to our industry and the people that we employ.
Yeah, completely understand that. Just digging deeper into the pricing pressures, how do you think you can balance that innovation with the pricing pressure?
I mean, innovation is so key, and it's always been key in our industry, but it really focused on people and process. But now, obviously, from a technology perspective, it's at our core. Over the past kind of 5 to 6 years, we've made some significant changes in our organisation to ensure that we're providing our customers that level of innovation. And I think by automating repetitive and low value tasks, you do reduce your operational costs, enable us to offer more competitive pricing without sacrificing service quality. And again, it's working collaboratively and transparently around what those interactions are and where you won't sacrifice service quality, for example. And I think the deployment of AI-powered solutions like Agent X, for example, has led to 20% increase in sales conversions in places. And that impacts the pricing model in a very different way. That it's not about the cost of the service, it's about the growth of the organisation that's being facilitated by us, essentially. And like I mentioned, decreasing frontline costs, directly improving return on investments for clients. We encourage an outcomes-based approach. I think from a pricing model perspective, to be incentivised in partnership with the same goals, both financially and both from a business performance perspective, is key. It doesn't work if you're working against each other. If we have a pricing model that encourages a people-led solution, but then you want in technology innovation, that's where things become difficult. So from word go, or within the relationship itself, it's about developing commercial models that incentivize us to hit strategic goals. So if it's to take cost out, if it's to reduce efficiencies, if it's to improve CSAT, whatever those goals look like, having a share in that return on investment will drive us to create those outcomes, essentially.
Amazing. Okay, thank you. The next question is around digital transformation again. So Matt, what are the key considerations you think people would need to take into account when looking for a digital transformation partner?
Yeah, I think what I'll begin by is just kind of building on the point around innovation that Carrie just mentioned earlier, and those pricing pressures, because also we need to recognise that these digital technologies take huge amounts of computing power. The most advanced technologies take considerable amounts of computing power, and many of these services are metered services, and we spend money on that compute processing power, and that can be quite variable, and that can be quite misunderstood in terms of how much you consume and the risk around spending too much on that consumption. And so how we design those services is really, really important to manage and balance those cost and price pressures as well in terms of the use of those services. So in terms of digital transformation and those initiatives, I think we often find that when it comes to costs of those initiatives, that there is that mismatch between how a client wants to buy and how actually we need to solution with that technology. So I think that's one of the things that we often find that we have to work quite hard on, is actually bringing people up to speed and more understanding about how these two come together. Katie, if I can ask you just to repeat part of that question again, please.
Yeah, what are the key considerations when looking for a digital transformation partner?
Yeah, so what I'm trying to just explain is that innovation in commercial models is also important, as well as actually having technical expertise and deep expertise. And in a partner, what we've done is actually not only developed our own products and services, but we also only have our own development capability as well to enhance those products and services. It's not just simply about a case of delivering a short-term transformation program and then moving off from there. There is a continuous sort of need to optimize and seek out new opportunities, and for that you would be best placed to finding a partner that has more than just implementation capability, but ongoing development capability as well. As I mentioned earlier, these technologies are moving really, really fast, and keeping pace with these and actually taking lessons learned from other industries, adjacent customer groups is really, really important to get the maximum out of a partner. We spoke a lot about collaboration in the course of this conversation, and transparency and trust. And one of the things that we've certainly found is that a lot of customers will come to us and say, asked about the depth of proof of their business being successful with this technology. The technologies haven't been around that long, and actually many of these use cases which a client is looking to or considering implementing are use cases which perhaps haven't been implemented before. So it comes back to that point about working with a partner to discover, to experiment, and working with a partner who's prepared to invest and shoulder risk as well. And that's something at HGS that we do with our clients.
Yeah, amazing. Great. So that's all we've got time for right now, but thank you very much for your time, Carrie and Matthew.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. It was really valuable talking through some of the report insights, but just hearing more about HDS, how you approach things, and the value that you provide for your clients. So thank you for the opportunity. So we'll follow up on any other questions via email. We'll also send a link if you would like the full report to digest at your own leisure. There's more insights that are packed in there. And if you would like to get in contact, obviously, with MaxContact or HDS, Carrie or Matthew, then please just respond to that email and one of us will be in touch. But thank you very much once again. Thanks for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on our next webinars.